Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. There it is. Good morning. How's it going? August 27th, Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, right? Tuesday morning. It's only Tuesday, and I've already somehow been a full day ahead this whole week. I spent all day yesterday thinking I spent all day yesterday, Monday, thinking it was Tuesday. Already several times this morning, I've been thinking it's Wednesday. And actually, Mark came in earlier, and he was like, oh, we've got a production meeting tomorrow, which we do on Wednesdays. And so when he said that, I was like, wait, is it Wednesday? It is Taco Tuesday, though, as Cedric points out. We should get some tacos today. I could do tacos. What's your best taco place in the chat? Tuesday morning here at Guerilla Sports. A lot going on in the world of sports. It is cut day in the NFL. We're going to get into all of that. A shocking cut here yesterday in Denver, and maybe shocking more in terms of the shock value, but when you really look at it, dig into it, maybe not quite as surprising as we should have expected. Big payday in Dallas, the most valuable sports franchise in North America with a value north of $2 billion. They made a big splash yesterday, finally in a move that everyone has been kind of waiting for this entire offseason. They took it right up to the line, right down to the wire. Then we'll head on over WNBA, Caitlin Clark. It's just history-making night after history-making night after history-making night for Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. We'll talk about that, some news out of Las Vegas, and a really fun little detail that the NHL has encouraged teams to do this year with their arenas, with their sheets of ice in particular. We're going to get into all of it today. We got Jay back there running the board as always. There he is, making sure that you guys can see me, hear me, all that good stuff. Jay just always making sure that things actually happen here and happen on time. Cut day in the NFL. We won't be cutting Jay. Don't worry. He's here to stay. But it is. Today is the final day. Yep, there he is. Whew. NFL teams have to get their rosters down to 53 total players today. Likely almost every team still making 30-plus cuts today. You had to put a full team on the field this past weekend, and a lot of those guys are practice squad or guys who are fighting for their NFL lives. We actually had a video earlier this week. I should have had you clip one of these too. I knew I had another video that I wanted to plug in here. Nate Jackson, our very own Nate Jackson, and I guess it was at the tail end of last week, put together a video just talking about what today is like for players in the NFL who are bubble guys, who aren't guaranteed to make the team. And the tough reality of it is there are a lot of guys around the NFL today who will be getting the news of, hey, you played your last ever football game on Sunday. And I think that's a tough part of the NFL. You know, you look at, let's just use the other three major North American leagues, and we'll even throw soccer in there as well. NHL, NBA, those are leagues that are very much meant to be the top league after a long development process. There's a lot of different leagues and a lot of different paths that you have to cross, a lot of different leagues you have to work your way up through to make it to the NHL or the MLB. And even once you're there, there's no guarantee that you stick. You can get sent back down there, or individuals who play their entire careers out in the minors, play till they're 38, 39, 40 in the minor leagues. If you look at hockey and you go overseas to Europe, there are plenty of players playing 40 and beyond professional hockey in Europe. Basketball, the same thing. If you don't make it on the NBA squad, there's the G League. There's a lot of different options. There's several pro leagues over in Europe. For the NFL, there is no proper development league. Yes, we've seen the emergence of the XFL and the USFL and now the UFL, most all run by The Rock, weirdly. all attempts at there being a secondary American football league here in the U.S. And yeah, you have the CFL as well, but the rate of pay is very different, and that's not really a full-time career. There aren't a lot of players playing in those other football leagues I just mentioned, CFL, UFL, the former USFL or XFL, that were able to do that as their primary occupation. A lot of those players were players who had been cut by NFL teams, no longer had a home, and were looking for some type of paycheck to continue playing the game they love. But that's not really the case. Again, you look at soccer as well. There are more leagues than I can actually even keep track of. It's almost even a problem for me how many soccer leagues there are. The NFL is unique in that a vast majority of those players who are getting cut today likely won't ever play a football game again, won't ever put the helmet on, won't ever pull the shoulder pads over their head. Only a few from each team will get picked up by someone else, put onto a practice squad somewhere, and will continue to go through this process fighting for their lives. But I thought it was an interesting perspective that Nate Jackson put on it as someone who was in that situation himself on several occasions and was having to play for his life in those final preseason games. It is right here on the Guerilla Sports YouTube, so I highly encourage you to check that out as we go through the day today with uncertainty for a lot of players who are hoping that their NFL dream continues. One player whose NFL dream will absolutely continue beyond this, but it will not be in Denver, Tim Patrick. A bit of a surprise cut coming yesterday, and I shouldn't necessarily say cut quite yet, as Tim Patrick, right now the Denver Broncos are saying that they are trying to find a trade partner interested in taking Tim Patrick so that they can get something back. But if they can't do that by the deadline today to get that roster down to 53, Tim Patrick will be cut. It's tough because he's been a feel-good story so far this preseason. After the last 2 seasons dealing with tremendous injuries, torn ACL in 2022, and then a torn Achilles last year, early in training camp, missed the entire season. For him to be able to come back and not only have an impact in the preseason, not only have a positive impact in the preseason, but find his way back into the end zone after more than 1,000 days. Catch an NFL touchdown. Yes, it was preseason, but you were really starting to feel like, okay, Tim Patrick is going to do it. He's going to break through. He's going to stick this year, and especially now with the renewed optimism around Bo Nix, why wouldn't we expect Tim Patrick to be a staple for the Denver Broncos out wide? It was a little bit surprising, I think, for most, but we were actually live. I wasn't live. Liv Moods, Brandon Cristal, and Nate Jackson were live yesterday as the news was breaking.
I did not see that. Okay.
Really? Told y'all, man.
Right. Well,
told y'all.
Tim Patrick's gone.
Told y'all.
Don't
Let's
say
see.
stupid. Oh my God! What
well,
the
let's see
hell?
who are we according to?
Tim Patrick,
With
guys.
significant depth and talent at wide receiver, Broncos are
Told
moving
y'all.
on from popular veteran Tim Patrick per source.
Told y'all. And that's what's fucked up about this time of year. Are you okay? That's what's fucked up about this time of year, guys, because you have these feel-good moments. You have these feel-good moments,
is
like
horrible.
the first time he's gotten in the end zone in 1,000 days. And did you see how excited everyone was?
I think
Tim?
that means Lil Jordan's making it, and they're not messing around with him on practice squad.
Exactly, dude. Because you need bodies on game day
He
who
was so
who do more.
excited when he got in the end zone.
There's a couple things from that clip. One, the initial report from Mike Kliss said that a lot of that was due to, in part, the fact that the Broncos are deep, at least what they perceive as deep, at wide receiver. Brandon Cristal kind of alludes to it there. There's a couple other receivers that they maybe are going with instead. But to me, it's what Nate was talking about there. You get these feel-good stories and you get kind of caught up in it. But here's the reality. The Broncos are looking at their wide receiver room and saying, we like a lot of our options here. And as Sean Payton has repeatedly talked to us about so far in this preseason and in this training camp, evaluating Tim Patrick has been hard. Not because you can't trust what you're seeing, not because you don't like some of the strides he's making, but this is a player who's missed 2 consecutive seasons with massive lower body injuries. A torn ACL and then a torn Achilles. Sean Payton just repeatedly said, we got to see it in games. We got to see him continue to do it over and over and over again. As I get something out of my eye here, we got to see him do it over and over and over again. Again, I think you like Tim Patrick, but what it ultimately came down to was he just didn't have enough of a body of work to make Sean Payton feel comfortable keeping him around in a season that, again, I keep reiterating to Bronco fans, there's likely going to be some pain this season. It's not always going to feel so great. And that's okay. For the first time, maybe since they won the Super Bowl, that's okay. They're building towards something. Sean Payton looked at Tim Patrick and he said, thanks for everything you've done. Thanks for all the work. But no thanks. We're going in a different direction. And truthfully, and this is maybe going to sound brutal on a day where Tim Patrick is down. I'm not trying to kick him while he's down. The Denver Broncos need a change. Not just in personnel, not in coaching, not in they need a change in culture. And unfortunately, for a guy like Tim Patrick, I think they are needing to move on from this losing regime that's known nothing but loss after loss after loss. And unfortunately, I lump Tim Patrick, someone who there's been a lot of optimism around for a number of years here. I lump him in with that because it's just a situation where it's like this guy, he's hurt year after year after year. You think you can count on him as a weapon year after year, and he's just not available. And it's just part of that dark cloud that has been the Denver Broncos in recent seasons. I think it's unfortunately the right move to move on. I hope they can find a trade partner for him. If they can't, Tim Patrick will end up somewhere with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. But I think continuing to move forward from this old losing culture, losing regime, and just a hard reset on everything is the right way to go. Tim Patrick, given to understand he's a great guy, very well liked by the fans. You saw Liv Mood's reaction to the news yesterday. I highly recommend you guys go listen to that full show. Our Broncos show is really becoming one of the best, I think, in town as those three continue to find their chemistry together. But they talk a lot about this. Tim Patrick will not be back with the Denver Broncos. Jesse Montaño says that's probably for the best overall. Let's talk about someone who does not have to worry about being cut and does not have to worry about where that next paycheck's coming from. CeeDee Lamb. After weeks, months of speculation about will this new deal get done, I remember our very own Liv Mood sitting at this desk a couple weeks ago when reports came out about the new $2 billion threshold that the Dallas Cowboys had just surpassed for current valuation. She was making the comment about well, dang, that's a lot of money. And here's CeeDee Lamb, one of the most potent offensive weapons in the NFL, still sitting out there without a deal because it sounded like there wasn't a lot of positive movement in contract negotiations. Both sides were relatively far apart. CeeDee Lamb thinking he's worth what he absolutely got. And the Dallas Cowboys seemed like for a while they were making the argument that I don't quite know if you are worth that. CeeDee Lamb does eventually land on a 4-year, $136 million deal with $100 million guaranteed, making him the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Only Minnesota's Justin Jefferson is making more at the wide receiver position. Outstanding stuff for CeeDee Lamb. Now, here is the issue. Here's the question mark. And again, I come from the world of covering the NHL and hockey day to day. So there's my brain works in the, all right, where are the parallels that I can draw? And a lot of people do talk about the fact that the Toronto Maple Leafs are really Canada and hockey's version of the Dallas Cowboys. Every year is their year. They always, according to people within the organization, have the best players, and their players in key positions like goaltender or quarterback, if for the Dallas Cowboys, are just as good as anybody else's. And they dole out big money to their star players that they think are the star players to get them over the hump. Here's the only issue, though. In both the instance of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Dallas Cowboys, there's no success to point to that says, yeah, you should feel confident in thinking that. CeeDee Lamb has been a weapon for the Dallas Cowboys for the last number of years, and not only have they not won a Super Bowl, they've never even gotten close. This has been a team stuck in the dreaded middle, in a loop of mediocrity. And now I know the NFL salary cap doesn't quite have the same effect and the same constraints that the NHL salary cap puts on teams, and makes it extremely difficult for teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs to make decisions like money bag head over here and still be competitive. I know the NFL is a little bit different, and simply giving CeeDee Lamb this amount of money really isn't going to stop them all that much from being able to add weapons around. But you do just look and say, okay, you kept CeeDee Lamb. Fantastic. How closer are you to getting over the hump? And I don't know. Again, I can only go based off of what we know about the Cowboys. And right now, the reporting on the Cowboys is, oh, this is their year. This is it. This is their year. And now that CeeDee Lamb is signed, here we go. But something tells me that's probably not going to be the case again this year. At least until they make some more structural changes to a lot of what they have going on. And again, I'm not even going to sit here and say, oh, you need to Dak Prescott or the offense or the defense. They haven't even gotten close. I think CeeDee Lamb's an exciting player to watch. I think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. But right now, history says, give CeeDee Lamb all the money you want, Dallas. It's probably not going to move the needle very much for you. Got a lot of other issues going on there. Changing gears completely. Let's go to someone who is perennially winning and just setting records every single night. Caitlin Clark, again, just continues to make headlines night after night after night. This time it's her tying the WNBA single-season three-point record. 85 three-pointers made, still 10 games to go. The record had been held by Atlanta Dream guard Ryan Howard. And Ryan Howard, largely considered, was just on Team USA at the Olympics, largely considered to be one of the best players in the WNBA, the best three-point shooter in the WNBA. And Caitlin Clark just broke her rookie record. Now, here was the best part. This is the shot that Caitlin Clark tied the record. This was her 85th three-pointer made this season. The player right there in the circle, well, that's Atlanta Dream guard Ryan Howard. Caitlin Clark tied Howard's record for most three-pointers made by a rookie with 85 in a single season by shooting over Ryan Howard. This girl's something else. Caitlin Clark just can't stop doing dope shit. Every time I turn on the TV, it's something else super sick. Every time I open my phone, it's another record broken. And now, in that game where she became the NBA's single-season rookie three-point leader, she set another record. She set the WNBA single-season record for most games in a season with 15-plus points or 5+ assists, regardless of status, rookie or otherwise. And in that same game where she broke those two records, the Atlanta Dream set a new attendance record for their franchise, packing 17,608 fans in the arena. It wasn't just a record for the Atlanta Dream. It was a WNBA record in the state of Georgia. This is the 5th time this season a team has broken their franchise's all-time attendance record. What is the common denominator in all 5 of those instances? Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever coming to town. She has the Fever on the brink of ending an 8-year playoff drought. Caitlin Clark has lived up to every last bit of hype that we heard about her coming out of the draft, coming out of these last 2 March Madness tournaments. My favorite part about her maybe is the humbleness and the attitude and the approach to the game. I'm a sucker for an athlete that gives credits to their teammates, that takes the attention off themselves and looks at it through the lens that Caitlin Clark does after her game last night.
I feel like I'm only 22 years old, but I act like I'm 10, so I don't know. I feel like I'm just a kid that plays basketball and has a lot of fun, and for me, like, coming into these arenas and these environments, like, I look around and it's incredible. Like, it really is. Like, I don't show up and expect, like, these crowds. Like, sure, like, maybe you've gotten a little bit used to it, but for me, like, that's not anything that ever gets old. It really is something that's really cool, like, especially as a young girl who grew up going to games. And, you know, as a young girl, if I would have came to a game in a building like this and seen this type of crowd, I think I would have been kind of in heaven. So for myself, I think it makes me really happy. It makes me smile. It gives me a lot of joy to just see the impact that I've been able to have, my teammates have been able to have, women's basketball players all across the country have been able to have, and I hope it continues to grow, because I feel like this league is really just, you know, scratching the surface. There's so much that can continue to improve and continue to get better, and I hope I'm a part of that going forward, and, you know, just being an advocate for every single person in this league, and, you know, keep pushing this thing forward and enjoying it all at the same time and having a lot of fun.
I love the attitude of the focus is on growing the game. And I like what she said about, man, if I would have walked into an arena that looked like some of these as a kid, what that would have meant to her to see that kind of love for the game and for her game. And to now see it as a result of her, I can't even imagine, you know what that feels like. Got a comment here, I think. Why is she getting hate? It feels like Caitlin Clark. The best way I can think to explain it, from my perspective, at least from what I can see, it almost looks like this is like an industry disruption type of thing. You know, when a new player, and player is the wrong word there, but, you know, a new business comes into town that's a very different model, and they're looking to disrupt an industry. They're looking to change things up. That's a little bit what it feels like to me Caitlin Clark is doing. And with that has come a new set of eyeballs and a new bit of criticism and new money and new deals and a lot of new attention. And I think there's a lot of it that's being attributed to Caitlin Clark. And it's hard to argue that. When you look at the attendance numbers, when you look at the viewership numbers, yes, they're up across the board, and it's fantastic. And yes, the sponsorship dollars are up across the board, and the TV rights deals are up. But when you dig into a lot of the data, so much of that is being driven by Caitlin Clark and where Caitlin Clark is playing. Her impact on this league has been immeasurable. And I think when you have someone like that is disrupting an industry, there are always going to be people who don't like it. And you're always going to get people who want to push back and say, well, hey, it's not just them, it's me too. And it's us. And I just think that it's something where the WNBA has never had a player come in and from day one garner this type of attention at the national and international level. The WNBA has been around for a long time. There have been very talented athletes that play in the WNBA. Women's Team USA has been dominant at the Olympics for decades. What Caitlin Clark has brought at such a young age in her first season of the WNBA, it's clear she's on a different level than what we've seen, especially with broad attention given to the WNBA. She's brought a different level of skill and talent, and she's brought a different group of eyeballs given what she did in college. And when you have someone that I think people can wrongly perceive as a threat to the way that they've done things, the way that they know things have always been, you're going to have people who don't like it. I don't think it's going to last. I think people will understand. Caitlin Clark is good for the game. She's not out just promoting herself. She's not saying it's just about me. Caitlin Clark is good for women's basketball. I think she will eventually be embraced as such. I'm not saying I agree with it or not saying that I condone it, but I understand why someone who's disrupting an industry could get some hate. One last note on Caitlin Clark. It's not just the WNBA that she's turning heads. The NBA as well. Caitlin Clark right now has the longest average three-point distance, which includes some of the best shooters in the NBA. And yes, that includes Steph Curry. So the three-point lines are a little bit closer than the WNBA. Doesn't matter to Caitlin Clark. All right, I'm up against the clock a little bit here, so we'll keep on moving. The Tropicana. Quick story here. Tropicana officially has a teardown date of October 9th, 2:30 p.m. Tropicana will be imploded, and it will be leveled, potentially making way for a new Las Vegas A's stadium if the move ever gets done, if the move ever gets pushed through. I was just talking to someone a few weeks ago, maybe about a month and a half, and I said, are they doing that? Are they actually going to move the A's? And the response I got was, well, they want to, but dude, the Tropicana is still there. So forget breaking ground on a new stadium. The old building is still there. We maybe have some movement on that finally, and we'll see what comes of the Oakland A's and their potential move to Las Vegas. Going to wrap things up today with some fun being had in the NHL, and I maybe going to sound silly when I say some fun being had, then show you this picture. The center ice logo. The rumor right now swirling is that the NHL has reached out to teams and asked them to have a little bit more fun with their designs at center ice, whether that be putting a little bit more of a subtle design in the red line itself or making full use of the entire center ice circle like what you see here in Ottawa. There's been a few examples around the league, and I hope that the rumor is true that the NHL has asked teams to do this. I know this is something super small, and people are, again, probably laughing at the fact that I'm calling this fun. But the NHL is notoriously no fun. They don't like teams, excuse me, to do things that break away from the norm or break away from tradition. They like things just to be very clean, cut clean and dry, and stick with some basic striping or don't go overboard. The Dallas Stars a couple seasons ago unveiled a jersey that was black with neon green striping, and you should have seen the old hockey guard be like, oh, I don't know, that's a little bit out there for me. Now, the weird alien AI thing that Dallas did during the playoffs to go along with it was weird, but I digress. This is fun because it gives teams the opportunity to do stuff like what we saw Vegas do last year, where after winning the Stanley Cup, they painted their center ice circle to resemble looking straight down on the bowl of the Stanley Cup. Well, they may have accidentally started a new NHL tradition. After winning the Stanley Cup, not only should you raise a banner, but now with these new paint encouragements from the NHL, the Florida Panthers did this. Their own version of what it looks like to look down on the top of the Stanley Cup, making it the last two Stanley Cup champions to not only represent having won by raising a banner to the rafters, which the Florida Panthers will do here in October, but to put it on the ice and say, yeah, we're the defending champs. Not only do we have a banner that'll hang there forever, but this season, you've got to come in here and skate on our ice where we just lifted the Stanley Cup. I think this is such a cool touch. I think it's I really do hope that this becomes a trend and a tradition here going forward because I do. There's just a level of it that is the NHL has never done this. The NHL has never let teams have fun like this. They've never let them break from the dress code to have a little bit of fun and talk a little bit of shit. And I think this is just a small, subtle little way of saying, yeah, we're the defending champs. You want the cup, you got to come in here and take it from us. I love it, and I hope whoever wins the cup this year does the same for next year. And again, I just love that it sounds like the NHL is not only okay with teams doing this, but in fact encouraging teams to have a little bit of fun at the center ice dot and, like I said, flex a little bit, talk a little bit of shit. I absolutely love it. All right, I hit 30 minutes. I didn't go way over. Oh my goodness gracious. You should see something horrible just happened back there. I can't even bring it up on the show because, yikes, that would get us canceled for sure. Jay back there running the board, as always, just running through everything like a pro, even though I throw him curveballs by switching topics unexpectedly. Liv Mood's back in the seat tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday. Then Liv will close the week out. JJ and I coming up here in about 90 minutes. Going to be talking all things Avs and NHL right here in the Guerilla Sports Studios. Super excited as we get closer and closer to all these seasons kicking off, getting started, training camps opening. Should be a great time. Big shout out to all of you guys tuning in every single morning. We love bringing you guys this show. Our guy Cedric always in here. Always one of the first ones in. Always in the chat. We major appreciate it. A lot more great stuff coming soon. For Jay, I'm Jesse Montaño. This has been Guerilla Sports Daily. We'll talk to you guys in the morning. Have a great day.